good. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being my first virtual online video recording session.
It's an honor. Thank you for inviting me. I've been looking forward to this chat for a long time.
Yeah, me too. And I'm glad that you're my first virtual experience. One, because you're obviously in Ottawa, so this was kind of the only way that we could do this. But two, I think you're also a lot more knowledgeable and experienced with virtual and tech setup, and that kind of makes up for my lack in that area.
I'll give it my best shot for sure.
Awesome. Well, Gustavo, we met just a little over 4 years ago. I got the anniversary reminder just a couple of days ago. We
Right.
met 4 years ago at Shopify when you hired myself along with a few others. So thank you for that, by the way. Thank you for that opportunity. But I'd love to hear kind of your full career journey beyond Shopify as well and the different roles that you've had.
For sure. And wow, I can't believe 4 years. It's weird because it feels like it's been many more years than that, but also it's like, whoa, 4 years is a lot.
I know. Well, for me, almost a year of that has been on mat leave.
Mhm.
So it doesn't fully feel like 4 years, but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it did go fast too. And we had a lot of great times
Mhm.
working together. So cool. So a little bit about you said career journey. How did someone from Venezuela end up here working in Ottawa at Shopify from Ottawa in such a cold weather? I'll give you the quick high level notes basically, because also I think it was maybe last month I realized that I'd been working for over 20 years, and that was like, whoa, it hit me.
Wow.
And like, wow. So I could talk for a long time about this.
2 decades.
But yeah, it's been surreal, honestly, just to think about like how quickly the time has gone since I arrived here. But in a nutshell, yeah, I came here when I finished high school to learn English and study. And first went into the computer systems world, into technology for not necessarily marketing or growth marketing. And being in Ottawa at the time, there was this boom of like high tech companies, just like there's a little bit of it today. And I joined a startup at the time, very much like Shopify actually. And they hired me for my computer systems background. I started building teams there for operations, IT. I was like the fifth hire, and eventually the company grew quite quickly. And so very quickly, I was 19 years old and leading a team of like 30 people. It was like multiple teams. So that was like very formative because not only did I have great mentors in that company, I was pretty lucky that they came in at different stages, almost sort of where I needed to go to the next stage and to the next stage, and have different focus. So throughout my 13 years in that company, I accumulated a ton of experience and started with support, IT, then moved on to product because it was just funny that being in support, I ended up taking all of the escalations of all of our top tier customers. And so not only I developed my skills for listening and understanding needs of customer, but also I developed at the time, this was like 2005 or 6, product management was like early on, the skills for working with engineers and people in the company to bring the voice of the customer, requirements at the time. The keyword was like customer requirements and whatnot, and sort of help build the product and product roadmap. And so naturally, after a few years, I became a product manager, and we were operating online stores, and so we were a lot in e-commerce globally. And naturally, working there for a long time, got to the conclusion that like this is good, but like our clients don't really like do well because they were in education, they were colleges, universities. So if we sort of take marketing, like online marketing on, we can lift our conversion rates, quite a bit. So I made a proposal. This was like around 2008, 2009, and leadership of the company is like, yeah, this sounds great, go for it. So they gave me the freedom to, build a team. I was all self-taught, at the beginning, and we did quite well. And I had hired amazing people, worked with amazing humans like Katie being one of them, Stella as well, and others. So we, that was awesome. Gave me a solid foundation, and then for a little bit I was consulting with startups, still in SaaS world and online marketing, e-commerce, but like a little bit more diverse. I discovered that I had a hunger for building companies again from scratch and teams, and then bring the knowledge that I had. Started my own agency for growth marketing, and then Shopify came knocking, and I said, "Yeah, I'm going to put this on hold for a little bit and go and join them." So here I am.
Nice. So one thing that I've always been super impressed by is how you've managed to kind of build really effective, high-performing teams throughout your career, and obviously having experienced that at Shopify. What would you say is your strategy going into hiring as well as retaining talent?
Right. Yes, it's a great question. And I've been fortunate to have a lot of experience in and always think about, because every team is different and every situation is different. It sort of depends. I think depends on whether you're coming into an established team or if you're building a team from scratch. Obviously, like when you're starting from scratch, you have the advantage to a degree of understanding truly first the vision of what you want to achieve, the challenges you have ahead of you, knowing yourself, the gaps that you have and sort of the people that you need to bring in to help crush those goals. So I think when you're building from scratch, it's somewhat easier to be fully intentional about who you bring to do what and achieve sort of a balance of personalities where like everyone is different. And part of I think what I've always tried to do is try to bring people that are diverse enough from like a personality perspective, yet they all share same core values around work ethic and collaboration, team sharing, growth mindset. So having this shared platform beliefs, but in essence, bring people with still diverse enough perspectives, experience, so that when we come together, we can sort of bring the best of everybody's minds. And so I think to do that, easier said than done, right? It's harder to execute. But throughout time and my time in Shopify and before, one of the crucial elements I would say is whether you're building a team from scratch or coming into an existing team, is to strive for having high psychological safety. And by that, I mean every team member feeling that they belong to the team and the team is formed with a greater purpose, that they feel safe from fear or any other, a consequence to share openly their thoughts, opinions, and to lead. Like one of the signals I have that the team is working with highest levels of psychological safety is when everybody starts organically and through systems and rituals to really push back against the status quo, right? And it doesn't matter who in the team the idea comes from. People feel free to say, you know what, like the leader of the league could have said this, but what about this? I have these 2 data points. I think if we apply this and that, it could be a lot better than that idea, or like if we just test it out, let's just see. So when people have that freedom to take in what they think they needs to be done, but assess it and then come up with an alternative, if they have a better alternative, that's when I think the magic happens. And yeah, all of that is sort of underpinned by the people that you bring in, right? And the shared values that they have, and eventually instilling a lot of rituals and modeling a lot of vulnerability, openness, transparency, and sharing. And so those are, I think, some of the things that kind of come to mind that I've always been very mindful and intentional in every single team that I've been in.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen that during my time working with you and in your team as well, because, through the good times, it's easy for people to share, provide feedback, but there are obviously going to be hard times in any company. And I found that within our team specifically, there was always that safe space to share not only just feedback on work and projects that we're doing, but also personally, how are we feeling, mental health check-ins. And I think that's a really strong culture that we always maintained through all the good and hard times.
For sure. One thing I would add also, one of the most important responsibilities of a leader is to a degree manage the energies of the team through storytelling. Of course, like the central story is the purpose and identity of the team that you hone in over time. So there's a lot of work there to set that up, but also to maintain it and to reinforce it. That's where you need to have the rituals, the symbols, the logos, the behaviors that align with the team's values and goals.
Makes sense. What would you say in your experience and time interviewing folks to join a team, what would you say have been some red flags?
Oh yeah, red flags. Definitely lack of self-awareness and curiosity. It's a red flag for me. Like if someone kind of comes in and displays a lot of traits around like a fixed mindset in a way, and like I've had all this experience and I know it, and I'm going to come in and do my thing. That is a red flag because often, obviously, that's not accurate, right? I mean, there's so much more to learn on anything. That it will just create a certain amount of behaviors that will really don't go with the style of a team that I normally build and the people that I normally bring. And, I mean, at times I have hired people that have those traits, and I maybe didn't see it at the beginning, or someone in the team kind of hired them and didn't see it. But then you kind of see when things collide, when they're not as open and transparent, or they're not as willing to listen to feedback and act on the feedback. And so I think all those things sort of slow you down and the whole team down.
Right.
So that's one of the main red flags for sure.
Cool. Yeah, maybe we can switch gears a little bit. So obviously, Gustavo, you've done a lot of marketing types of roles across different teams as well as companies. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Where do you think AI will play a role when it comes to marketing? Because I think a lot of the work that we did at Shopify, a lot of that data mining and data analysis can now potentially be automated. So how do you view that impacting marketing?
Yeah, I think, I mean, just like it's impacting the world, right? On every facet. I think I see it as a positive force for good in marketing, at least in our immediate crafts. To your point, it just helps take away the complexity of a lot of things, and it does sort of the job that needs to be done, but you still need the creativity to. So it's like a tool
Mhm.
that is very refined. It can do many things. You still need the creativity behind it to use it, just like any tool, right?
Right.
The way I see it is like you got like brushes, and all sorts of tools for painting, but like not everybody can be a great painter. So I think at the base level for everybody, it will accelerate their ability to do work. Things will probably get done a lot quicker, a lot easier, a lot less dependencies, right, on data teams, analysts, copywriters. And so that'll be a great positive. On the other hand, I think what will separate someone's experience from just using this to like improve their workflow by a little bit to maybe doing the next amazing campaign or like strategy or something is in their own creativity and the ability to use the tool.
Right. Yeah, that human element.
Mhm.
Do you feel that, because I think there is some sense of fear that it's going to take away a lot of jobs, and obviously tech has faced a lot of layoffs already this past year. Do you feel that there's any truth or validity to that, or do you think it's just going to change the nature of the roles?
It's a great point. Hard to say conclusively, but like if we zoom out on a micro level, technology has been doing this for years,
Yeah.
right? And when I say this, I mean changing the way we work.
Mhm.
And by changing the way we work, yes, it will eliminate some jobs from people actually having the opportunity to do those jobs. But I think it will also create new jobs and will create new opportunity for people to do things that we're not able to do before.
Mhm.
So in a way, I'm not sure if there's going to be a balance, but a change nonetheless.
Mhm.
And so I think it sort of comes back to, I think there's a meme on this that I used in a presentation a long time ago, but adapt or die. Sorry.
Adapt or die. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's adapt or die, right? Like, I mean, things, you can't stop change. You
Yeah.
can't stop the world from turning. And it's a matter of understanding how it works, understanding how you can best apply it, sort of try to be in the forefront. Because just like anything, there's going to be a bell curve of adoption. And so right now we're seeing sort of like the first movers that are going to start using this and figuring out and probably making a ton of money and making a ton of new businesses and changing the ways things work, those innovators. Then eventually, like everybody else will sort of come on board.
Right. And I think it goes back to the point of why it's so important to have a team of people who have a growth mindset, because
Mhm.
you want people who are willing to adapt, willing to learn and figure out new ways of working, because we know that change is inevitable. Okay, so all the work aside, what does a day in your life look like?
Yeah, I think I love to talk about, being a dad. Sort of took me by storm in terms of like my jam was like, growth marketing and like, building like companies and teams and stuff like that. And I became a dad and like, whoa, this is like building like, my own company here in a way, right? Like, and
Building
then
a
of course,
baby.
yeah, and then the kids are like the board of directors, of course, and the
Yeah,
main
for
shareholder.
sure.
But yeah, no, I love being a dad. I got two boys, and yeah, they're absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
A bit of my day, I guess, is wake up in the morning. I'm the first one that wakes up, gets everybody up,
So you
cooks.
wake up before the boys do.
Yeah,
That's nice.
and
We haven't
yeah,
gotten to that point yet.
it.
Myra's the one who wakes us up right now.
I was the same. Naturally, honestly, I am a night person, but yeah, post kids, post COVID, all that went out the window. And I tried as much as possible to wake up a little bit early just to start the day slow and have a bit of time to myself. That's not always the case, but that's my aspiration every day. Um, and then yeah, like sort of routine is, like wake everybody up, make breakfast, make the lunches for the kids just to get them on their way out and drop them off at school. And then I start, my work day. I'm proud of myself that I've been pretty good at like keeping the work day within the bounds of work. Again, before kids, before all that, I used to be someone that would just work,
Mhm.
throughout the entire day at night on the weekends and stuff like that. And while it was rewarding in its time, I think it was not super balanced lifestyle. And now with these boundaries, what it does is that it effectively forces you to be a lot more effective with your time, more ruthless in your prioritization. And and then you have time later, right, for yourself and for your kids and whatever you want to do. So anyways, so yeah, after work, definitely try to get in some time again with my kids. That's super important, especially to hear about their day when they
Mhm.
come in. I think they're still in an age where they like to share and tell me all the things. I don't think that'll happen, always, but I love when they do that. Now in the summer, it's getting better. We usually try to get a walkout or some activity outside, and then love cooking. So I also try to like make a lot of the dinners.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a fun day. And what are you guys doing on the weekends or anything you're doing on the side for fun?
Yes. So since COVID, actually, we've been a lot into this is more at nighttime on the weekends when it's nice out, like astronomy and looking at the stars, night sky.
Nice.
I find it's amazing what it does to your perspective.
Yeah.
You start thinking about like such a grand scale in terms of millions of light years, in terms of like distances and volumes and like years, that it's a bit of mind blowing. And the more you're in that space thinking about it and learn, it just changes your perspective about how you look at even time, our time on Earth,
Yeah.
our the size of our problems, and all of
Mhm.
that. So
Yeah.
that's one thing.
Everything feels a lot less significant. And I love the idea of having a hobby like that with your kids as well, because it's something that I think just makes the connection stronger.
Absolutely, yeah. And I find there's a big difference in the learning process for kids
Hmm.
and grown-ups. They're like way more curious, way more why everything, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So like even things that I didn't even think of to question this, right? Like they kind of question it, and then you go away and learn it, and you're like, yeah, well, this is amazing.
Yeah. It's great to hear their perspective and their thoughts on things like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay. So I would love to hear, Gustavo, maybe some plans or goals that you have for the rest of the year. And I know that you love to think in systems. So, what kind of systems are you putting in place to help achieve those goals?
right. Sense. Yes, that's my original sort of profession, computer systems, and I had a lot of my foundational years in that, and it's just something that I think also like intrinsically comes natural. I tend to like take everything apart into their subsystems and how they relate to each other and all the parts and pieces and their purpose and how they work. So personal goal for this year, I would say, is number one, you've inspired me with the podcast, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. So I definitely want to get it out there. And so that's a personal goal of mine, to sort of reboot my presence in the industry and sort of give back a little bit and have a similar format like this one, where I have conversations with people, and so that's a goal, to just get into a cadence of shipping podcasts regularly. And how I think about those systems is that I'd start thinking about like what are the inputs that are going to go into this to eventually like create the output that I want, which is my goal. And the inputs will go through a process or many processes, right, to eventually achieve that outcome. And so where am I spending my time to develop, and like what is the sort of stack rank like priority list in terms of like what's the main thing that needs to do, like content creation, development, like the topics, the people, what am I going to talk about, all those things. And how is that today, like right now, again, not very developed, but like what are the systems that I can put in place and help me build, right? And so one of the things that I'm actually have on my board here to start doing is just to create time, 1 hour a day. I have it like half hour before the kids wake up and then half hour at night to just sort of like dedicate towards this and start creating a backlog of ideas. And then eventually would be the people that would be that would like to cover these topics and these ideas.
I
So
love
yeah, I got to stand all this up somehow and
Oh, I'm so
going.
excited. Yeah, I know we actually talked about this before too. So I'm glad that it's still top of mind for you and it's something that you're actively putting in systems to work towards it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up for the questions, but I do have some rapid fire.
Oh, okay.
So speaking of podcast, what is a favorite podcast that you have at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment, I would say the one that ranks number one that I try to watch every video, super interesting, is the Huberman Lab podcast. I listen to so many audiobooks about like how we think and the human brain and why we make the decisions we make and all of that. And I think he covers a lot of that in very like practical ways.
Hmm.
So yeah, I usually get a lot out of them.
Yeah, I love his stuff. Okay, I know back when we were working together when I wasn't on mat leave, you used to share a lot of really great articles, content that you'd come across. Has there been any piece of content or blog or article that you've come across that really resonated?
In regards to our craft, like in marketing, growth marketing.
Yeah.
One source that I would say is Lenny's podcast. I can't really pick out one particular article right now, but most of the stuff that he puts out is great. And he basically acts as an aggregator, right, of all the great articles. And I think he just also launched a podcast, like a video podcast recently.
Nice.
But I've just been a fan of the newsletter, just like, reading a lot of the articles that he says. And he just covers like product management, growth marketing, like growth in general.
Awesome. Is there anything that you're geeking out on right now?
Anything that I'm geeking out? Yeah, my wife and I got into juicing recently. And it's something that I started to look into, then started watching YouTube videos and researching all the juicers and stuff. And
Right.
it all stemmed from my natural tendency to just buy all the things that I think are cool. But yeah, I found like there's this really, really cool like juicer that like it's a cold press juicer that, makes sure that all the vitamins and nutrients are in the juice that you
Nice.
extract.
What is it? Which juicer is it?
It's called Nama.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a Shopify merchant, so you can get it through one of the stores, of course. And but yeah, it's kind of like the Tesla of like, of juicers. And but honestly, I swear to God, like you drink juice out of this thing and you feel like you're already having a great day just by that sip.
Yeah.
And
that's a good thing to geek out on. Love it. Favorite food spots in Ottawa?
Favorite food spots in Ottawa, I would say El Camino. It's one of them for really good tacos.
Love tacos. Did we go there when we went there for a work trip? We did, right? Yeah.
It's on Elgin Street, pretty close to the office when we had an office here in Elgin.
Mm-hmm.
I would say another one in Victoria. It's like a restaurant, like an Italian restaurant. That's where I got married.
Sentimental value there as well.
Exactly.
Cool. Best thing about being a dad?
Wow, that's a
loaded question. I know.
Question.
There's so many.
Have another episode.
Yeah.
I love it.
Maybe in their current phase or this, because I feel like every stage of a kid is so different. So in their current stage, what is your favorite thing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, version something. Right now we're in some version number of their software. I would say it's that discovery, right? Like they are both learning and intentional about learning a lot more about the world. And so I really like to join them in their discovery of stuff through their lens. Yeah. Like one of the things that we did recently with my sister gifted my son's like a thing of clay and tools and stuff. Of course, then I got a bunch of other tools and things and paints. And my son is like very ambitious as well. And she's like, cool, let's just do this thing. And it's like, whoa, I was just thinking that we're going to do a little cup or something. And it's like, no, now we need to do this like thing from a show that he watches, like a character. And so it got me to like, with him research and now like we know how to like create like the body structure with wire first, put it in the platform, then slowly start to add in a particular method. Then, you add the coatings of paint and stuff. And we actually are having a lot of fun, sort of discovering. And so, yeah, I think that the thing I enjoy the most right now is just learning with them a lot of things that I didn't know before. Yeah.
That's amazing. Awesome. This is the last rapid fire question. Is there a motto or quote that you live by?
So I watched a lot of TV when I was a kid, and TV that I probably wasn't supposed to watch, but, like everybody in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And Van Damme, Arnold, Sylvester Stallone, they were all like my heroes. And then Bruce Lee as well. But like, I never really saw their movies, but just I don't know why it was always like up there. Mm-hmm. And as I kind of grew up, I learned more about him and his philosophy and what he did and stuff. And the one line that always is in my mind is like, be like water, my friend, and that's, I feel like organically I sort of like live that philosophy of being super flexible and adaptable. I think that's maybe because of when I moved here, I had to, be like super flexible and adaptable to the environment and the people and everything. And it's sort of one of the things that's helped me thrive in the world. And that's something that I very much actively try to teach my kids, just to like, be flexible, be adaptable, have that growth mindset.
Love it. And that's a very spiritual and philosophical type of a quote, but you're right. It's very relevant in all aspects of your life. And I've seen that with you at work as well. Given all the changes that we've gone through at Shopify, you've always kind of stood like water.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take the shape that needs to be taken and go with the flow, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, I think that wraps it up for us. Thanks so much for being here, Gustavo. Thanks for being my first virtual podcast, ripping off the Band-Aid.
I appreciate it so much. This was a lot of fun.